Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. To be fair, it's not just my panel, because Monica, Paolini, and myself have been looking at the topic of inclusion. We call it inclusively. We're trying to create this more inclusive environment for the industry. And we've been talking to many stakeholders throughout the last about 18 months, I think, Monica. We've been looking at this, trying to get both the telecom industry, the vendor community, and everybody just to put it on their radar to think about how do we build a more inclusive future. And it's not just because it's the right thing to do, it's actually economically beneficial for everybody. So, Monica, do you want to say a couple of words as well?
Yeah, it has been a really great thing to do, and I think that both Chris and I learned a lot in the process. We don't have the answers, but we have a lot of questions, and it's just been a really great thing to have a conversation. And this is what we're doing today, is to expand the conversation even further. And again, as Chris was saying, we don't see this as a cost or an imposition, or like, oh, we need to be inclusive. Think about it. We think about inclusivity and diversity as bringing value to the companies, value to the people out there, and increasing the market. So it's a win-win situation. And the question, though, is that what is the best way to go about it to be really effective? And this is why we're talking about AI today, because everybody's talking about AI. But the question is, how is it really going to help us?
I'm not so sure about being the greatest thing since the invention of fire. I think someone did say to me, it's the most important thing since the invention of the internet. So I think it takes it onto a different level. It's not just communications. It's not just the telecom industry. It's much more important. And we're fantastically privileged to have the panel that we got today. So we're going to minimize the amount of talking that we do. But we're always in the analyst community looking for as many perspectives as possible. And today we've got Yaiza from Telefonica, we've got Marina from GMS, and Vinod from Meta, to bring all of those perspectives. And I think rather than us try and even give you a brief summary of their vast experience, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and give their little bit of background to AI and its implementation and its implications. And then we'll open it up and have as open a conversation as possible. Because it's not about big presentations, it's about sharing ideas, getting people involved, getting people really into the subject. So Yaiza, since you are the local, having just come from Madrid, do you want to kick us off and give us your background from Telefonica? And do you still, by the way, have the title Chief Metaverse Officer?
Yes, I'm the Chief Metaverse Officer in Telefonica. I started with this role 2 years ago, and we are going to create a new internet for all people. And here, for example, when we are trying to introduce, for example, technologies like VR, for example, we know that these new technologies bring positive things, but also challenges. And in this sense, 2 years ago, we published a white paper in Telefonica in which we raised many of these challenges that we will have to face with the metaverse. And one of them was the possibility of increasing the digital divide. And from there, we started to incorporate people in my team working group that could help us to take into account this from the design. And we saw that it was not enough, and we started to work with ONCE. ONCE is an organization here in Spain, and we have learned a lot in this group. But to be honest, we are a technological people. We know a lot about VR, AR, tokenomics, NFTs, validating nodes, wallets, oracles. But how do you get these new technologies can be used by everyone? And it's very difficult. I would like to share with you some insights, especially about design, because design is everything in digital ecosystem. And for example, general insights around this. It's not only to design an accessible product, but also to make existing products accessible. Designing with accessibility in mind is not designing for a specific group of people. There are also some temporary disabilities, such as when we break a hand or get older. So designing is an accessible way. So designing in accessible way is designing for everyone. Designing for certain target groups tends to have a negative reaction. Not everyone has the same needs, and it's very difficult to adapt the products to particularities of each one, and help should appear when the user requires it. The information must be relevant and when they cannot access it on their own. But insights about VR, because it's our expertise and we want to create new products for everyone here in this ecosystem. The insights, it's about it could only be interesting for those people who only have some visual rest, as VR helps them to enhance what they are seeing. Augmented reality is more interesting. It's a way to magnify objects in order to better visualize them. And VR can be interesting as a tool to enhance memory, for example. It can help them to visualize situations in order to anticipate them in real life. As for enjoying entertainment content, they prefer to experience live events, but watching immersive content seems positive for them to be able to perceive everything in much more detail. We have these several insights, and I think that there are great insights to create new products together, because we have more information to create something new together with ONCE, for example.
Thank you very much. And I must say straight up that Telefonica were one of the first companies that I engaged with when I started looking at the whole issue of disability and accessibility over 10 years ago. So congratulations and keep up that great work. So we're going to go from Telefonica with your footprint in Europe and Latin America,
Yes.
to a global footprint, Vinod. So and obviously you'll be delighted that you guys have talked about VR and the headsets and the like, but tell us from your point of view, from Meta, how this designing for inclusion and the use of AI is changing the things that you do.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm super happy to be here with some exclusive panel here. So my role at Meta is I'm looking after the quality of experience of our apps and products at the end consumer level. So what does that mean? So, you know, from our end, Meta, and we produce content, we use upload content from data center to submarine to edge pop to FNA edge. We deliver all this content to the CSP, like Telefonica, and from there, CSPs take over and deliver that content to the end user of Meta as well as the Telefonica users, right? So that last mile is very important, that to manage that quality of experience. So my role primarily is globally. I'm working with operators globally, where how can we work together to improve the quality of experience for our users by working together, looking at metrics, doing some optimizations. So things like that will basically, end of the day, we improve the quality of experience for the end user. So that's more or less very high level what I do. But I would like to, like my past, I come from, before Meta, I was the CEO for Ericsson Sri Lanka Maldives. So I come from Asia, connecting people from 2G, 3G, 4G to 5G. So I have a very telecom background as well. Yeah, so it's very interesting. So I mean, thanks, Chris, anyway. for the
Thank
lovely
you.
opportunity.
And we're going to come back and pick on some of these things later on. But we're certainly very grateful to Marina, who's the third contributor here, Marina and GMS. Marina was the co-founder of Intentful. So Marina, tell us about you. You come at it from that Gen A, you're the trendy one, right? We're all the old established people, and you're the new trendy one, creating all the havoc and creating all these possibilities. So tell us about your background and Intentful and GMS.
Sure, thank you. First of all, happy to be here today. Thank you, such an interesting topic, and look forward to the discussion. I'm now the head of Gen AI at GMS, and our company Intentful was just recently acquired by GMS, as GMS is shifting towards AI-driven communications future. They just recently announced rebranding and all new GMS. I'm one of those people who would say that the importance of AI is close to the importance of fire and inventing the wheel. I'm definitely not the person who is going to be showing the Terminator-like slides and will say that we are all going to die. However, I do understand that there is a level of responsibility that goes with it. I've been working with Gen AI since 2021, and I'm absolutely fascinated by what the technology is capable of. And I think we are finally, as a humanity, as people in the telco industry, and really in all industries, we are finally at a point where it's clear that it is just not a technology. It is co-intelligence. I'm looking at my phone because I saw an announcement a couple of days ago of a book. Okay, sorry, I need to enter the password now. There was a new book that has not been released yet, but it will be in the next several days by Wharton professor Ethan Mollick, and it's called Co-Intelligence, Living and Working with AI, and I think it is perfectly capturing the essence. We are now at the stage where for the first time in millions of years, and I will quote him, for the first time in, where was it? Yes, after millions of years on our own, humans had developed a kind of co-intelligence that could augment or even replace human thinking. And while it is a broader topic, speaking of DEI and accessibility and all of that, I think we're making a huge step forward now with what technology enables us to do. But at the same time, as we discussed, we need to be responsible in terms of how we use that technology, how we make sure that we do not take that bias in that comes with the world's knowledge from the past several centuries. It is truly fascinating finding that right balance, how the technology can support us, how the technology can help all of us as consumers as well, and how it can make the world more accessible and open, at the same time learning to coexist with a new type of intelligence.
Could you tell us, because, clearly there is a big opportunity with AI. Nobody's going to question that. But if you just look at, the sort of low-hanging fruits, what is that you can see there's going to be a concrete application of something where AI is going to make access to disabled people easier?
So first of all, at least two things. One is, I don't know if you heard about it, so with GPT and GPT as models created by OpenAI, about 6-8 months ago, they launched GPT Vision, where AI is able to read the context of a picture or of something that is not just text and describe it. And it can describe it in the style that you want. You can set it in such a way. And there was a project that we discussed with Chris as well called Be My Eyes. It was initially the project that OpenAI launched, but then it made GPT Vision available. And I'm playing with it quite frequently, and I'm so amazed because it can make so many things better, even if you start with things like accessibility on the website, because I don't know the exact percentage, but those websites that I looked at, 95% of them are not optimized. And that's access to information, and that can now be done in just several clicks and open the world to so many more people who lack that access.
Yeah, it is I use it. I use it in a meeting this morning, the Be My AI, as it's called, and it's the detail it produces is staggering. And of course, for me, it reads the text out as well. So not only it takes the picture, analyzes it, and then it reads it to me through an earpiece or whatever. And it just opens up a new world, right?
Yes.
So we were downstairs in the meeting room downstairs, and I took a picture, and it said, opulent, luxurious surroundings with chandeliers and beautiful. And it's like, wow, I would never know that because I can't see that particular detail. But
Hey, but let us just say, because there is the other side of it, which is acquiring video. And I know, Vinod, you can tell us something, because that's the other half
it's amazing,
of
Marina, right?
Yes.
So what you said, I personally feel that the AI is the best thing happen to accelerate the inclusiveness.
Yes, I agree with you.
So that has, why do I say that? That has capabilities to accelerate and fuel the inclusivity than any other network or any other technology what we have seen in this world. So exactly, these are small things, but then future is real bright. So how we use it, and how we make use case out of it, and then how to address these specific needs of differently able people. So that's very important when it comes to AI. So, but in my view, so this is gonna do best for the differently able people and marginalized community to improve their quality of life. Because I always say, Chris is one of my good friend, old friend. How he uses technology to improve the quality of life. It's a, if 10% of the people, who I think 1.3 billion people in this world is differently able, right? So if 10% of that people can use this technology to improve their quality of life, the world would have been a good place. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's the best thing is going to happen, and then it's going to accelerate the,
it is, and I think what's really important to point out is that we in the telecom industry, we always think about this new network, whether it's 5G or fiber or whatever it is. So we think about the network. Actually, AI cuts across. It's a unifying layer that will bring the best out of everything, won't it? Yeah. And we'll come on to it. It can bring the worst out of everything as well. So we'll come back to that, I'm sure. But it's that it allows the adaptation of the technology, the data, the input mode, the channel, to customize it around the individual. We've been talking about customization, hyper-customization, personalization for a decade, 2 decades? So we've been talking about it for a long, long time. But I just get the feeling if we do this right, and if everyone works together well, then it will be a big game changer. And Yaiza, from your point of view within Telefonica, I say you've been looking at this for many years that I've been involved with Telefonica. Is there a particular reason you started with the vision impaired area, or is it an easier one to address, or is it, did you see all disabilities, all impairments as equally important?
For us, it's very important to create our experience very inclusive, but not only for a specific person, for all of us. And it's important what you did, what you said, because, for example, in our research that we did with ONCE, we had a person in this research that, okay, I consider to come back to the university and study my medicine because we have more opportunities with, for example, AI or several devices as, for example, Apple, that, okay, I'm more comfortable using this type of devices, and I want to come back to the university and study again because the technology makes me more comfortable to do it. And I think that is incredible how AI or in general devices improve the quality of life of the person.
Do you know, one thing that I always think about with AI is that one question people always ask me is, what can you see? And what I describe is difficult for people to understand. I think there's a real role for AI actually analyzing disability and how people perceive the world, how they interact with the world, how they use things. And I'll give you an example. In the famous eye hospital in London, Moorfields, they've got all of these retina scans, and mine is a retina deterioration condition. And Moorfields are taking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of retina scans and starting to run it through an AI engine to try and see, to look for the patterns, right? So, you know, which is, a surgeon will look at a retina scan and go, this is it, whatever. But actually, the heavy lifting of being able to manipulate that amount of data is staggering. So I think there's a, like I say, it's not just in telecoms, there's a massive role in the healthcare and medical industry. And if we think about it inclusively from the beginning of the discussion, then everybody benefits because it will make the interface easier. And Vinod, did you bring the headset with you?
Yeah, I did. So, I mean, before I showcase this, I guess there are, in my view, to accelerate the, inclusion through AI, needs to have 4 pillars. So the number one is the devices. So to address each disability, what are those devices we are going to use? So for example, this is a device that, like many people can use, where for deaf and for anyone, and we were discussing, like it could be a deaf person and a person can actually talk to each other by using this kind of a device. So device ecosystem is number one to address these needs. The second one is there has to be a creators who creates the software to run on these things.
The experience.
Yeah, the experience, right? So that's important. That has to be mature as well. The fourth one is the platforms. Of course, platforms you have many. It could be iOS, it could be Android, it could be like Meta or any other. So that's there. But the fourth important element is the connectivity. If you don't have the right connectivity, all these things come together, won't work, and doesn't serve the purpose of that particular individual who has the disability. So we need to think, 365-degree angle to address this, the real need of how can we build AI to build an inclusive world.
If you don't have the connectivity, it's impossible to create
impossible.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These devices won't work without a proper connection.
And I think there's, and Marina, I'm going to come to you in a second about power, but before I say the power of platforms and so on, the issue that occurs to me then, Vinod, is that in the 1.3 billion people you talk about with disability, there's also, I think we say 3 billion unconnected in the world still today.
Yeah, 2.6 billion.
Thank you. But to get out, to reach those people, often those are low income in rural parts. So we've got, the connectivity doesn't just mean rolling out 5G in every country, does it? It means getting it out to people at an affordable level and with devices that are affordable, because people can't all afford the latest iPhone. Yep. So the device becomes critical, like you say, affordability becomes critical. But Marina, the point I was going to make there was that the processing, the power that we use to do AI, to what you do, where do you see that being done? Is that going to be done always centrally? Or is it going to be pushed out to the device or on the edge? Or how do you see that being distributed across the whole environment?
I think we are going to see so many changes happening in the next several years, and I think there is so much
several
development.
Days, probably.
Yes, days. Thank you. Yes, and it's not a secret that there is the race to get to AGI, to artificial general intelligence, and that's where Microsoft of the world and Amazon and everyone in Meta are going there. So I think it is incredibly difficult to keep up for anyone else. So I think there will be multiple things that we're going to see. Open source will continue being super important, but then the computational power is also important in terms of what's possible. So I would, going back to 4 pillars, I would say that devices, yes, are super important, but I would say that devices are second after the technology, because you need the technology to power the devices.
But also you need applications and you need some business models.
But
so do we have the ecosystem?
The ecosystem, but yes, exactly. So you have the technology layer, then the device. I would say the devices and the apps probably go more or less on the same level.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to. I mean, you're coming from all this the AI language model. If you look at the like we have about 1.3 billion people disabled. And in my view, I don't have the correct number on that, but more than 60 to 70% of those disabled people come from Asia and Africa, right? Now, it's a challenge as well as a huge opportunity for companies to, grab
Sure.
this thing. So how do you see this evolving and addressing this, like Asia and Africa dynamics? Because there are so many languages, so many people who doesn't have access to the right skill set, digitally unskilled. All this stuff is complex challenges compared to Europe or US, right? So how do you see that unfolding?
So do you not think the skill set is, if we do AI properly, the skills will be in the system. They'll be
Yes.
So it's the way we use it is the important thing. And actually, even occurred to me as you were just talking then, both Marina and Vinod, that if we're in markets where the affordability of devices is we can only afford a relatively low functioning handset, then AI should adapt the way the service
And
gets
it will.
rendered to deliver it into those rural communities. So, where we have got powerful smartphone devices or VR, AR headsets, then that's going to be the system will adapt. Surely that's exactly what AI will do.
And that's what's been happening. And I also would like to go back a little bit earlier to your comment and also to address your question. So when we look at the technological layer, and if we look at even what happened during the last couple of years and how even the LLMs, the foundational LLMs have been evolving. So initially, and going back again to the discussion about responsibility and the responsible use of AI, we talk about bias, and you and I had this conversation before, how LLMs were initially trained basically on our human history, and that human history is full of all sorts of biases. Several years ago, we launched a project called DEI in AI, where we were studying the types of biases that we humans have. Oh my God. Like, we are all full of biases, and those biases were and still are in LLM. However, since that moment, there have been so much of responsible approach to how LLMs work and how all of that gets filtered through content filters or being caught before it continues going further. So right now, that foundational technological layer is much more responsible, and it can be adjusted and it continues learning before it gets to devices. And whether the device is an advanced glasses from Meta, or if it is a simple device that is available in Africa, it enables people to co-create, be co-intelligence, co-learn, co-everything.
But I guess that there is sort of a further step, because AI can learn anything you give him, whatever you feed. And so if you look at traditionally what we do in telecoms, we design everything for the top adopter in the top markets. And I think that as we know the same, we need to just widen the scope. So we need to really think about, before we train the model, what is that we feed to them. So it's going to be different languages, different cultures, and each one has its own different biases, and we need to know what to do about it. So it's a huge task, but it's a huge opportunity, because we can be more truly inclusive from the get-go.
But what it also brings out is the fact that we're talking globally about a market, because we tend to talk, as analysts, we always talk about global markets. But actually, the important thing, to go back to your point, Vinod, is that governments within every country, every regional authority, need to understand that the ability to use this technology to deliver. And interestingly, I was at an event talking about AI in telco in London in December, and Lord Holmes of Richmond was talking about how the British government was approaching it. And he was asked which verticals were most important. And he said, finance and healthcare and retail and telecom. And I said to him, surely the public sector is the one that needs the most help, that in terms of funding it, to be able to support social care, healthcare, and all those things. But it needs the architecture needs to understand that national, that sovereign level, and government needs to be very, very involved in it, and all the local players. So telecom, in a way, is well placed to help that, because telco is fundamentally national services. So I think the layering of organizations like Meta playing at a global level, and the technology providers, but then combined down to local markets, is where I think the application will be made, and that adjustment will be made within those local markets. No one's going to argue with that, are they?
We agree.
And in terms of I guess one of the questions I have is that obviously I don't look at images anymore, but obviously I read a lot. I read through my ears, as I keep telling my kids that I read my ears do all that for me. So Marina, the issue of quality assurance of the content being delivered, how are we going to deal with that? Because what you do in your business is you help, if I understand correctly, you help create the voice of the company and produce the brand and work out to the customer, which is fantastic. But how do we know when we get a piece of content, whether it's video or written, that do we need to stamp it, to watermark it, to say this was mainly generated by AI or this was human? What's the human role in this? Can we move the human completely out of that side?
No, I don't think that we can move human, or we should. I think that the process will continue evolving. When we started 3 years ago, it was completely different. We still have the QA process in place where there are at least 3 sets of eyes that review what has been done. I absolutely agree that there needs to be a stamp that this was produced by AI. However, there needs to be a stamp that it was reviewed by a human, or that it was edited by a human. But again, there are multiple use cases. It's not just content creation. There's so many applications right now where it can be used. There was a panel before us with Google Ads, and there was a conversation that ads can now be created. Yes, they can be created with the help of AI, but then there needs to be that additional layer of human, of the AI that needs to know the brand and the business, but also the human that reviews it before it all becomes too much. However, there is another angle. So all of the platforms are actually also becoming much better in being able to define the quality of what's being pushed. And it still all comes down always to the same thing: what the user wants, what the reader wants, what the audience is interested in. If it doesn't work, it will not rank. So the approach is the same. The fundamentals are not changing. It's just the tools of how we use it is changing.
And Yaisa, from the Telefonica point of view, can we touch it? Given your job title is Metaverse, how do you see AI and Metaverse working together? Are they completely intertwined? Is that the...
Yes, we are introduced, for example, AI agents in our VR experience to be more inclusive and more accessible. But right now we are considered that the natural language is the more accessible way to communicate inside in VR ecosystem. And we are introducing our agent. Our agent is called Aura because we think that users can talk to Aura and for example, manage a relation with our company through the voice. This is our approach with AI and VR or immersive applications.
Now we're going to switch to the audience. We're going to ask you a very quick question. A lot of disabled people are also kind of more vulnerable and to security, privacy issues, and whatever.
Yeah.
As an operator, how do you deal with that?
We have a history around this. We needed to transform our company 10 years ago because we consider that any application that we run in our infrastructure or third parties application in our infrastructure cannot get personal information without any consent, for example. And we needed to transform our company in this sense. Also, we need to deploy new royalty programs, or because we consider that the users give me their consents, I need to reward my users. And we launched here in Spain a loyalty program called Miss Tokens. And as you know, we have Aura, our virtual assistant, and this is the method that the people have to talk to our company. This is a digital approach, digital strategy that we have in Telefonica related to privacy, related to give the value back about the data to our customers, and how to create new channels more inclusive with AI.
Yeah.
I think we might have run out of time.
No, we're not. We have a little bit of time. If there are some questions. Are you shouting at us? We have to stop.
Any questions from the audience? There, we have one.
Could you say your name, please, and company? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Peter Lyons. I'm with Centillion. My question is, have any of you looked at the, as networks move to 5G, at the core, how do you see the importance of open APIs into the operator networks to be able to sort of, provide the level of specific service that might be required by somebody who might have vision problems or...
Sure, and it's a very good point. In fact, there's a session I was at earlier, and the question was about AI and APIs, what is the relationship? And anything which opens up the inner workings of telecom, and let's face it, in the past we were very closed, and we only ever exposed the end service to the customer. The more open we make things and the more partnerships, ecosystems get built up, the more likely is the partners will reach in and take the services out from the telecom piece, which adapt to the... So there's the service adaptation, which might be, to Vinod's point about, again, reaching out into rural communities and people with lower connectivity or lesser type of devices. And there's the customization, especially in the contact center, by the way, to actually allow the service to be rendered through a channel suitable to that individual. So obviously, people keep sending me letters. I mean, why people keep sending me printed statements, I don't know, because I can't read them. But, and I've said, just send me electronically. So I think there are issues within the network which will adapt to the service. It's that sort of hyper-personalization that we've been talking about for many years. But it's so much more broad now than it was in those days. That was just about getting the connectivity to the individual. Now it's about getting the service to the individual, which might mean replacing a voice channel with an SMS, or being able to dial up a sign language service to be able to bring that into the discussion. So it opens things up to be able to draw the different pieces in from wherever, both from within the telco, but also from within the partner ecosystem. And I think that's one of the beauties of where we're going with this, is that the more open we make the telecom infrastructure. And I think it also, by the way, raises a question about the models. Marina, I think you touched upon this, which is that ChatGPT is not an open model. Meta's is an open model, and I think that there may well be pressure in the long term to make them more open. Do you have a view on that, Marina?
I do. I actually think, and thank you for the question, I think there is a huge important component of the data privacy and security, and what goes where, and what data goes into what models to be trained. So the open part of the open API requires, it definitely can be open, but there needs to be a lot of attention to detail in terms of the data privacy security and where all of this information is going to.
Good. Thank you. Should we wrap?
Anything else? I guess we're going to be around, so.
Well, also, I'll close it with a plug. So I did a report for the MEF, which Marina's company kindly sponsored, and which is available now. You can get access to that. But also, we were talking to Dario just before about the content that the MEF produces, and the fact that starting to make sure it is accessible and starting to deliver things in the way people want to consume it. So it's not always a PowerPoint presentation. I hate it when people send me PowerPoints because I can't read it. But actually to turn content into a consumable format, whether it's to be able to be listened to or read in a text format, or it might be delivered as a video, as an animation. So keep an eye on what MEF is doing on the website and all the content. Go and look at all that. Much of the work that Monica and I are doing on Inclusively is also available through MEF, or if not, come and talk to us. We'll be around for the rest of the evening. I wish you a fantastic Mobile World Congress. Thank you to Yaiza from Telefonica, to Vinod from Meta, and of course to Marina from GMS Intentful, and Monica. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.